Life after high school was challenging for me. I couldn't go to college due to financial problems in my family. I knew that if I wanted to go to college, I'd have to earn enough money for tuition. It was hard, but I managed to land a job at the Ivory Hotel. It had just been built, and the manager was desperate for employees. Granted, I'd be paid minimum wage, but it's still something. All I had to do was get as many hours as possible. Anyway, I was on room service duty on my first day of work. Everything was going well until I brought room service to a guy on the third floor. I knocked on the door, but nobody answered. I knocked again, still nothing. I didn't know what to do at this point, so I went to get my manager. I was making my way to the elevator when I heard a loud scream. It was coming from a nearby room with the door open. I ran to the hotel room and saw Ruth running towards me. Ruth was one of the maids. In tears, she told me to call 911. She'd just entered the hotel room to clean when she saw that the guest was in bed. For context, this was around noon, and the Ivory Rose Hotel's guests were mainly tourists. Usually, they'd be out of their rooms by then to explore our city. So why was this guy in bed? At first, Ruth thought that the guest overslept. She gently nudged him, asking him to get up. Ruth panicked when she realized that the guest's body was cold. I called 911, trying not to panic. I tried to comfort Ruth while we waited for the paramedics. After giving our statements to the police, our manager, Mrs. Benson, demanded to know what happened. She's put a lot of money into her hotel, and this incident could ruin everything. Ruth and I swore that we didn't know what happened. Mrs. Benson warned us that if any of the employees were responsible for the death, she'd fire them on the spot. Ruth was genuinely scared of getting fired. You see, she immigrated here from Ireland with a work visa. If Ruth lost her job, she'd be deported. When the police investigated the hotel, they discovered that the guest I delivered room service to died as well. What they discovered next shocked everyone. Both guests died of asphyxiation by illuminating gas. Nobody knew where the illuminating gas could have come from. The police searched the entire hotel room for gas containers. However, there were no traces of it anywhere. At this point, the employees were brought in for questioning. Of course they'd assume that the killer is a hotel staff member. If you asked me, I'd say it was Greg. Greg was this guy who strongly opposed the construction of the Ivory Rose Hotel. He rambled on about how the empty lot the hotel was built on should stay empty. No one knew why Greg was so worked up over some lot. One of my coworkers made some joke referring to the Poltergeist movie. I should probably mention that I'm not too familiar with my town's history. I have no idea what stood in that lot before the hotel. Yet somehow, I'm sure that it was never a cemetery. Out of curiosity, I asked Mrs. Benson about the history of our hotel's location. She said she didn't know anything. The person who sold her the lot didn't mention any history. For all we knew, the lot had always been empty before the hotel. That answer satisfied me, and I never thought of Greg's ramblings again. 3 days passed, and the police couldn't find any leads. That's when the Ivory Rose Hotel was faced with another tragedy. Another guest was found dead in his room. What's even worse was that he died the same way as the last two. Once again, nobody could figure out how it happened. From that day on, a guest died daily. For some reason, the Ivory Rose Hotel was never forced to close. Mrs. Benson had security cameras installed in hopes of finding the killer. To everyone's horror, the cameras didn't catch anything. The death seemed to occur in the middle of the night. However, the footage didn't show anyone going in or out of the victims' rooms. It didn't take long for the Ivory Rose Hotel to be labeled as haunted. Imagine my surprise when people continued to go to the hotel. I guess the concept of staying someplace where you could die is exciting. Either that, or some of the patrons didn't believe in ghosts. If it were up to me, I'd have the hotel closed. I was walking home from work one day when a familiar voice called out to me. I groaned as I recognized it as Greg's. I asked him what he wanted. As always, Greg spewed some nonsense about the lot. Between Greg's ramblings and the string of mysterious deaths, I've had enough. I blew up at Greg, asking him what the hell his problem was. Greg said something along the lines of, "Your hotel has brought him back." I asked Greg what he was talking about. It turned out that there was another hotel before the Ivory Rose Hotel. It was founded by a man named H.H. Holmes. He was a madman who killed anyone who stayed in his hotel. Each room had pipes that released illuminating gas, thus suffocating his victims. When the authorities captured Holmes, his hotel was shut down, then demolished. The hotel was exactly where the Ivory Rose Hotel stands now. Apparently, the lot was cursed by Holmes's evil. His spirit invaded the Ivory Rose Hotel, killing the guests the way he used to. At first, I didn't believe Greg, but the more I thought about it, there was really no other explanation. I needed my job, but people are dying because of that damn hotel. Mrs. Benson wouldn't close the Ivory Rose Hotel even if her life depended on it. What should I do?